Charlton Police Department search warrant. If you're in there, come out your hand up.
On Friday, October 2nd, 2020, around 9 in the morning, an emergency call was made to the Carrollton, Texas Police Department. The voice on the other end of the line sounded quite terrified and anxious.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
Someone came up and just shot my assistant manager.
Where is the shooter?
A few minutes later, several patrol teams arrived at the scene. A gray Toyota Corolla was parked in the lot of an apartment rental office at 1120 MacArthur Drive, right by the entrance. The driver's side window was shattered and bullet holes were visible on it. Just a few steps away on the sidewalk, a knife sheath lay abandoned. A little further on, the wounded and blood-soaked body of a 24-year-old woman, Alyssa Burkett, with long dark hair and fair skin, was discovered on the ground. Besides her face, which had been injured by a gunshot, her body was covered in numerous deep knife wounds. On one side, officers were actively isolating the area, while on the other, paramedics were desperately trying to save Alyssa's life. However, the bleeding and the severe nature of her wounds was so extensive that ultimately, at precisely 9:12, Alyssa Burkett's death was officially confirmed. The medical team immediately set up a special tent there to conduct a more thorough examination of the body. Simultaneously, one of the crime scene investigators found a tracking device hidden under the victim's car fender. Until this device is sent to digital forensics and its results come back, we can reconstruct the incident with the help of statements from several of the victim's colleagues who more or less witnessed the scene.
Don't touch anything, okay?
She got shot in the car.
Okay.
She can see her handprints.
According to reports, Alyssa entered the parking lot at 8:52. She hadn't even gotten out of the car when a man got out of a black SUV Ford parked a few meters away, slowly approached and fired a bullet at the driver's window. The sound of the shot echoed through the area, and Alyssa's colleagues, terrified, rose from their desks and took shelter in their offices.
We're just getting our day started.
Okay.
One of them was sitting right behind the window when it happened.
Were you here when everything happened?
Yes, I was sitting at my desk. I heard that pop. I
The
turned
other
around, I
one
knew it
is
was a
saying
gunshot.
that the attacking man was a black individual.
All I can say is a black bike.
The next person has seen the assailant's getaway vehicle.
I see a black SUV starting to back out of the parking spot.
It seemed the killer, after firing the shot, turned back towards his own car as if he was planning to escape. At that very moment, Alyssa, who was miraculously still alive, with great difficulty managed to get out of the car. She then went towards the building's entrance, and with her remaining strength, she banged on the glass, desperately asking for help. The assailant, realizing Alyssa is still alive, returns and this time armed with a knife approaches her. He then delivers 44 fatal blows to various parts of her body, killing her. Afterward, he gets into his car and flees.
Did you see him holding the knife?
Yeah, in the hand.
Unfortunately, there are no security cameras in the area surrounding the building, so we have no image of the perpetrator. I'm thinking if John Douglas, the father of FBI criminal profiling science, were present at the scene of this murder, how he would analyze the situation. This murder is not a random or accidental act. The selection of the location, the timing, and the method of execution clearly shows that the killer knew the victim in advance. The motive is neither financial nor sexual. Everything stems from intense anger and a profound sense of control over the victim. This indicates the killer had an emotional, familial, or competitive relationship with the deceased. The attacker had two types of weapons, a firearm for incapacitating or initial harm and a bladed weapon to finish the job. This indicates that the crime was premeditated. The GPS device found under the victim's car is also crucial evidence, showing the victim had been monitored for a long time, not for robbery, but for control. 44 knife wounds mean the killer decided 43 separate times to strike again. What was going through his mind that he felt it wasn't enough and he had to continue, especially when the victim had already been shot in the face? This indicates extreme rage, personal hatred, and likely a profound feeling of betrayal or threat from the victim. Someone who strikes with such intensity doesn't just want to kill the person, they want to utterly destroy them. And that, right in front of a building where someone could emerge at any given moment. This means the attacker either had absolutely nothing left to lose or was so completely blinded by rage that nothing else mattered to them. The killer left the scene, leaving no trace behind except for a knife sheath.
This is somewhat reminiscent of the Brian Koberger case, but in any event, this swift and flawless operation shows that the subject either has a criminal record or is familiar with police investigation procedures. There's also the possibility of cooperation or support from one or more other individuals for acquiring a vehicle or planning the GPS route. Of course, all of this is a possibility we can put forward considering the limited evidence we currently have in hand.
We're going to start having family members show up here.
She even said, I think he's the kind of person that's going to try to kill me. And he did. And he did. Oh my God. I know he did this. He's an evil person. He cannot get away with this. He cannot get away with this.
The child continued their education and also began working as an assistant manager at the Green Tree complex. During that same period, she also started a relationship with another young man named Ben Irwin. The situation was relatively calm, but behind the scenes, there were ongoing disputes with Andrew over the child's custody, and Alyssa's financial situation was completely messed up during that time.
Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa. This past year, I have been going through a very difficult custody battle, a truly ugly one. I am currently a parent to a beautiful 1-year-old child. To be completely honest, the journey has certainly taken a considerable toll on my mental state and my physical well-being. But having said all of that, I've also found myself becoming much stronger, both mentally and physically, through this whole experience. So I suppose my main message to everyone listening is this. No matter what difficult circumstances you might be facing, please just persevere and stick with it. You absolutely have the strength to get through it, and remember to stay strong.
A few weeks later, when Andrew became engaged to a young woman named Holly Elkins, the fervor surrounding the child's custody gradually diminished and died down, until eventually, in mid-March of 2020, Alyssa and Andrew managed to reach a final agreement regarding Willow's custody and her financial support. More interestingly, contrary to expectations, Alyssa and Holly formed a good relationship. Once, Holly messaged Alyssa saying, "I'm so happy we can have a healthy relationship with you and Ben." Alyssa replied, "I hope your presence has a positive impact. I really want us all to have a healthy relationship." But a few months later, something strange happened. On August 6, 2020, Holly contacted the police, alleging that Teresa, Alyssa's mother, had assaulted her. 2 police officers were immediately dispatched to the location to thoroughly investigate the incident. Holly stated, "I was taking a walk by the lake with little Willow held securely in my arms when all at once Teresa approached me from behind, snatched the baby, and began to hit and scratch."
She literally attacked me from behind, or from the rear side. I was facing the lake.
During her interview with the police, Teresa completely denied any involvement in the incident. Consequently, the case was closed because there wasn't enough evidence to proceed. Everything appeared to return to its usual routine for a while, until several weeks later, when the Carlton Police Department received a phone call from a man identifying himself as Frank. Frank had contacted them specifically to report what he believed to be a highly suspicious matter.
I observed what appeared to be an individual selling illicit substances from their truck, and I could distinctly smell it, and I could clearly see what was happening. All right, what kind of vehicle is it exactly? It's a small, compact Toyota Corolla. I do have the license plate number, if that information would be helpful. Okay, that's excellent. And what was your last name, please? Morrow.
Several officers were immediately dispatched to Alyssa's workplace. In the trunk of her car, a significant amount of cash, several packages of illicit drugs, and a firearm with its serial number completely defaced were discovered. Alyssa was completely shocked and adamantly insisted that none of these items belonged to her and that someone must have intentionally tried to frame her. Considering this young woman's background revealed no prior criminal record, no history of substance abuse, and no connections to any lawbreakers, the police did not investigate this incident further. Now, when we start to put all the pieces of this puzzle together, from the grueling custody battle to the untraceable weapon and the drug packages that were far too professionally planted for a lone woman, and if we also consider Alyssa's mother's statements, who, on the very day of the incident, said her daughter had repeatedly warned, "He's going to kill me eventually," a repetitive pattern becomes evident right before our eyes, a pattern that very clearly and unmistakably points to one individual, Andrew Beard.
I knew it was him. I truly did when the drugs didn't work in the car for him to take the baby. Yes, I want my green baby far away from him.
Andrew Beard is a suspect? Yes.
Alyssa herself, after that fabricated smuggling case, was simply not the same person anymore. She kept saying Andrew was constantly following her. Time and again, she told her friends that whenever she walked down the street, she felt someone watching her from behind. On one occasion, she turned around and saw Andrew sitting in a car. Another time, she spotted him in the gas station line, and then again, as she was leaving the grocery store. Alyssa was so frightened that she would sometimes ask her friends, "Please escort me all the way to my front door, check behind you carefully to see if anyone is following us, and please make sure to lock the house door securely. Ça peut être brissan vai." She also launched a GoFundMe campaign around that same time, and in its description she wrote, "I am truly afraid for my life and my daughter's right now. Please help me cover Willow's custody expenses." This statement indicates Alyssa wasn't merely concerned about a legal battle, but rather she sensed the looming shadow of a man intent on taking her life. Despite all of this, there still remains one crucial question for which we lack a definitive answer. If Andrew is indeed the killer, then who exactly was the black man the witnesses observed? There are two possibilities on the table here. Either Andrew himself did this directly, with a different appearance, perhaps using heavy makeup or a change of clothes to hide his real identity, or he hired someone else to do the job, perhaps an acquaintance, a ruthless individual who was also in desperate need of money. Whatever the case, his arrest brings us one step closer to finding the answer and solving the mystery of this entire case. Following this, police units were immediately dispatched to his place of residence with an official arrest warrant. A nationwide alert was also promptly issued concerning two specific vehicles. One was a white Ford F-150 confirmed to belong to Andrew, and the other was an order to impound that black SUV Ford that several witnesses had reported seeing at the crime scene. A few hours later, Andrew's distinctive white car was finally located. Police officers had pulled him over due to what appeared to be a very common traffic violation. The officers then proceeded to remove him from the vehicle and arrested him right there on the scene without any significant resistance. In the passenger seat, his fiancée, Holly Elkins, was sitting right beside him, and in the back seat was Willow, Alyssa's young daughter, whose full legal custody had recently been granted to Andrew.
My only role was simply to find him. That's all that they asked me to do. His daughter's in a car seat in the back seat.
Given that the preliminary evidence against Andrew Beard was not sufficient to keep him in custody, he was released several hours later. But Andrew was completely unaware that the police had now decided to delve deep into every aspect of his life. The initial two steps involved issuing warrants to search both his car and his place of residence. The very first item that the officers discovered inside his home was an envelope, completely covered with frantic, messy handwriting. Alyssa's name and the address of her workplace, the model and color of her car, even their commuting hours had been recorded. Among those very notes, the name of Frank Morrow was also visible. He was the very man who, just a month prior to the incident, had reported issues of drugs and weapons to the police. Also found on the table was a specialized charger and a portable battery pack. Their model and serial number precisely matched the GPS tracker that had been installed underneath the victim's car.
So we found this GPS tracker box.
Simultaneously, the full inspection report for Andrew's car was also completed. Inside a backpack, which was on the car's back seat, a pair of men's hiking boots was discovered. They were thoroughly soaked with bleach and had been cut into many small pieces. It was absolutely clear that someone had been attempting to cover their tracks. Next to it, there were also 2 bottles of professional dark brown makeup supplies, something specifically designed to make lighter skin appear much darker. At this point, our initial hypothesis was fully confirmed. The killer had clearly attempted to conceal their identity by using facial makeup and distinct clothing, and to make themselves look like a black man. Meanwhile, purchase documents for a black Ford Expedition SUV were discovered, registered in Andrew's name. A review of the car's GPS tracker revealed the subject half an hour after the murder, around 9:30 a.m., parked the vehicle next to a residential apartment building just a few streets away from his own home. During that initial inspection, several bloodstains were discovered on the car's seat and floor. DNA testing subsequently confirmed that the blood belonged to Alyssa Burkett. And finally, the last piece of the puzzle, the thing that made the case conclusive, was discovered right next to the car door. It was a fake beard, exactly the same style that one of Alyssa's colleagues had mentioned the assailant had worn on his face during the attack. With all this overwhelming evidence and proof, there's no room left for any doubt. Consequently, Andrew Beard was rearrested and transferred to the Dallas Police Department's detention center on first-degree murder charges.
Andrew Beard?
Beard's bond is set at $1 million. He is currently in the Dallas County Jail charged with murder, and police say it's very clear this killing was not random, it was planned, and it was personal.
I can't believe that my fiance would do something like that to a woman, or to anybody, but a woman. So I just told all my friends and family that I'm engaged to the most wonderful man on the planet. Yeah. And now people want me to believe that he's not that.
And there are so many emotional roadblocks for you to try to believe that. I get that. I'm telling you, there's a side of him that you do not know.
The discussion with Holly stretched on for more than an hour. Despite all this compelling evidence, she should have realized that Andrew was undoubtedly responsible for Alyssa Burkett's murder. There was even a strong possibility that she herself could be the next victim, and she was incredibly lucky to still be alive. But none of this made any difference. Holly kept repeating that Andrew had been at home with her on the day of the incident. He said this accusation is unbelievable, and this evidence can't convince him.
There are a few hours that you know he was not in that house.
You cannot tell me that I feel that way, sir.
I can tell you that because I know that for a fact that he was out of the house, Holly.
I don't know that for a fact. That's what my problem is. Okay. I am a total stage 5 clinger girlfriend. I'm always up his ass. I find it hard to believe. I want to help. I really do. But I don't have any answers. I'm trying to help and no one's helping me. I just feel bad to know. I just feel bad to not help something that I think is very sad that happened. I've literally cried myself to nauseum every single night over this. I don't want or need a lawyer because I don't have anything to hide. Yeah. Well, I feel like the dumbest, most manipulated woman on the entire planet if this is true. Yes.
The interview concluded without yielding any particular results, and Holly then left the police department. Just 2 weeks had passed since Andrew's initial arrest when a truly unexpected event occurred. On October 21st, 2020, Andrew Beard's $1 million bail was finally paid, and despite a significant amount of evidence existing against him, he was released from prison.
A Rowlett man accused of shooting, then stabbing to death the mother of his child is free on bond this afternoon. And the victim's family believes he is a threat to public safety.
He was taken to the Dallas County Courthouse, fitted with an electronic GPS ankle monitor, and released for home confinement, placed on bail after a $1 million bond was paid.
Alyssa's family was absolutely shocked upon hearing this news, not merely because of Andrew's unexpected release, but primarily because they felt their own lives were now in grave danger. They were deeply worried Andrew might attempt to inflict harm upon them, or perhaps he would take advantage of the situation to flee and never face justice in court.
The family of Alyssa Burkett wants to know why someone paid for that release. They believe he should still be behind bars.
At this stage, the case was elevated to the federal level and the FBI became involved. 8 days later, Andrew was apprehended once more, but this time for a completely different reason, for the unlawful possession of a firearm silencer. Upon a more detailed inspection of his residence, ATF agents discovered a homemade suppressor in his closet which lacked any serial number or proper authorization. According to federal regulations, the possession of such a device constitutes a grave criminal offense. Andrew was sent back to prison, and this time he remained there for 18 full months.
A Rowlett man accused of murdering the mother of his child has been arrested on a new charge.
Now Beard is back in jail on a federal charge of possessing an unlicensed firearm silencer. The ATF says it has no records of Beard legally owning a silencer and that the silencer has no manufacturer markings or a serial number.
According to standard legal procedure, it was anticipated that from this point the case would then proceed to the trial stage and the jury would deliberate on the final judgment. However, the intricate game of criminal investigations doesn't always unfold according to established rules, especially if a crucial piece is missing. After Andrew's arrest, Holly vanished. Without a word, or even saying goodbye to her fiancé, she returned to Michigan and cut off all communication. She got a new apartment, bought a luxury car, and started a new relationship with another man. But the real twist in the story began exactly where everyone thought it had ended. On June 15, 2022, Andrew Beard decided to speak out, but not from a place of remorse or to ease his conscience, but rather because he simply had no other option. He was willing to cooperate and offer information in the hope of receiving a reduction in his sentence.
If you were to ask me whose idea was what, drugs and the planning of drugs was Elkins.
Andrew claimed Holly is not at all who she appears to be. From the very beginning, she disliked Alyssa, wanting to be the sole actress on the stage of her and Willow's lives. To achieve this position, she knew she had to eliminate her rival. According to Andrew, all these elaborate schemes had originated from Holly's mind. Framing her with a weapon and narcotics, Alyssa's mother's staged attack, and even hiring a private detective to gather confidential information about Alyssa. But when all his attempts proved fruitless, he embarked on a new game, a game where he was no longer merely a controller, but a direct threat. In one of his messages to Andrew, he wrote, "It's time for you to act more decisively. These actions you've taken so far have been nowhere near sufficient."
It was made very clear to me that your previous methods aren't working. This is what you're going to do now in order to prove that that you're worthy.
And then the hurtful, bitter words began to pour out. A real man protects his wife and his entire life from any enemy, not by letting some ex-girlfriend take complete control of his life.
Like, I was emotionally drained, and at that point, I just basically said, okay, and became submissive to whatever she wanted me to do. That's the task I did.
The murder plot for Holly was a test of his manhood, and Andrew may have truly believed he needed to pass this trial successfully. It appears Holly had meticulously planned everything 2 weeks prior to the murder, from how Andrew should apply makeup to make his face appear significantly darker, what exact time he needed to be at the scene, even what clothes to wear and his escape route. She had also prepared several encouraging messages to bolster Andrew's spirits throughout the plan's execution.
It was, you're going to dress up as a different person, essentially. You're going to wear this dark makeup. That was her plan. That was how it's going to be done. It does look planned out because it was. The process was planned out.
We usually search for the killer, but sometimes we must look for the person who created the killer. It's true that in this case, Holly didn't pull the trigger herself, and she didn't have a knife in her hand. But if this woman had never existed, this crime probably wouldn't have happened.
The fiancé of a Rowlett man is now charged with helping to carry out the murder of his ex-girlfriend. Federal prosecutors arrested Holly Ann Elkins in Miami.
In July of 2023, Holly Elkins was arrested at Miami Airport just after she had returned from her vacation in the Dominican Republic on charges of conspiracy to commit murder. In the court hearing that took place on April 10, 2024, the prosecutor opened his statement with a truly powerful line. Andrew Beard is a monster, but he is Holly Elkins' monster. In fact, by uttering this sentence, the prosecutor very cleverly alluded to the master-puppet relationship that we had previously discussed. The messages that this couple had exchanged with each other proved that their relationship, right from the very beginning, was a sick and controlling one. It appears that only 2 months after they first met, Holly texted Andrew saying, "The mother of your child is controlling you. You always put her as your top priority. I neither want, nor do I need a life like this." The final police report indicates that from that very moment, Holly commenced her research into tracking devices, surveillance equipment, and positional control, and by September of 2020, everything had proceeded exactly as planned. On September 13th, Holly and Andrew jointly purchased that specific black Ford vehicle. The following day, Holly acquired specialized dark brown theatrical makeup supplies. On September 19th, the two of them went to the store and bought the very same model of bullet and knife that was subsequently found at the murder scene. Now, what exactly was their motive for carrying out all of these actions? The prosecutor believes the root of all these events was Holly's obsession to get Willow. But I believe if we look deeper, we'll realize the child here was merely a symbol. For Holly, Willow wasn't just a child. She was a flag planted firmly on a peak she absolutely didn't want anyone else to ever step on. Finally, after several lengthy court sessions, the jury announced its verdict. Andrew Beard was sentenced to 43 years in prison, while Holly Elkins received 2 life sentences. These 2 individuals are currently serving their respective terms of imprisonment within facilities in Texas and Arizona.